Hey guys, toward the games, Brisbane 2032. Welcome to episode 11 of this epic podcast that they said
11. They said we'd never make it, Luttsy.
And look at us now.
11.
Look at us now. Well under 4,000 days to go.
I'm just doing the sums. Episode 11, 260 episodes to go until...
Is that right?
Yeah, something like
It
that.
doesn't seem like that many when you talk about it like that. I'm Luttsy. Of course, the editor of the Courier Mail is not me. Sorry, I missed a comma there. I'm Luttsy, editor of the Courier Mail, with Chris Jones. He is the editor of the Courier Mail.
Look, it's so good to be...
Jones, I haven't seen you in months.
It's been forever, mate.
I haven't
It's
seen
been
you
forever.
since...
And it's so good because I can see what T-shirt you're wearing today. And today it's the Games of the 23rd Olympiad, Los Angeles, 1984.
I'm going
with the
through
very American
the stars.
logo when there was the takeover of the Olympic movement by the Americans.
Yes.
Los Angeles 1984, and I think you're wearing it because we might have a bit of a conversation about some of the stars of the pool.
Yes.
In the 1984 games and how they're relevant to 2032 later on.
Very much so. Very much. And before we go any further, too, I remember you gave me a gift. Geez, when was it? It wasn't really a Christmas gift, but you gave me the Moscow shirt.
It was a Christmas gift, Luttsy.
But it was in November.
It was, well, it arrived quicker than I expected.
Yeah. Well, I've got you two gifts.
Have you?
Yes.
What have I got? Oh.
So the first one is obviously Olympic related. These are...
It's my birthday tomorrow, actually, Luttsy.
Is it really?
Yeah, it genuinely is. So,
oh my God, happy birthday.
So is this Christmas or birthday? One's Christmas, one's birthday.
Yeah, okay. So the first one is Christmas because this is Tokyo 2020, which of course was really Tokyo 2021. And these are, now I know you're thinking, you got me a t-shirt, how boring. Wrong. These are the official 2020 pants with zip-off short options. With Tokyo 2020.
Wow.
And I didn't know what size, but they're elastic, so,
that'll be fine.
They should fit you.
And
they zip off.
Genuinely has a zip.
Yeah, they zip off.
Did you hear that?
And the other one I got
I didn't know you could get pants like that.
Oh, yeah, they still make them. Usually only around sporting events. That's the only... I think the last pair I had like that was the Commonwealth Games in 2006. So they're nice.
2020, yeah.
And the other one, obviously I've been travelling. This is your birthday present.
Just when would you actually unzip?
Well, when you don't know whether it's hot or cold. So you go out.
I see.
You go out.
Like you're in the aircon, unlike in the studio with the aircon broken today.
So today might be a day when you go to an air-conditioned office.
Yeah. You turn up to the office wearing your tracky dacks.
And then all of a sudden you've got to go, my God, I've got that outside meeting at midday and it's 35 degrees in Brisbane.
Hang on.
Do it up to the mic, mate. It's radio. You've got a theatre of the mind. Just to prove they are actually.
Say it again.
I say, oh my God, I'm outside. I'm hot as hell. There you go. And off come, and they actually are. That exists. There's pants here. He didn't just undo his fly or something weird.
That's
that was
amazing.
Weird.
Well, we'll have to. I'll put it on Instagram.
What, you got to sell it?
No, well,
put it on eBay already.
Instagram toward the games.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
So that the listener can have a look.
But the second part is
that's very nice.
I'm trying to work out whether this is actually an Olympic city or not. I've forgotten. Anyway, I travelled through 5 countries. Over the last.
What were they?
I went to Dubai for World Expo, as our listeners know, where I discovered everything from.
Rooftop bars to other rooftop bars.
Basically rooftop bars. And then I went to Prague, then I went to California, Los Angeles, then I went to Costa Rica.
Hang on. Weren't you going from Dubai on Wanker Air to Prague, or did you have a stopover?
No, Wanker Air was Prague to LA. Oh no, hang on. No. Well, that was business class.
Too many rooftop bars.
Too many Wanker
You can't even remember which countries you were in over summer.
No, I went from from Dubai to Prague to LA. Yeah. Then I went LA to Costa Rica.
4.
Then I had some problems with my Ester, which I won't go into. So I had to fly back through Vancouver. Okay. And did a stopover for 2 hours in Toronto Airport.
Yes.
Where I bought you this beautiful shirt. It's a beautiful... What colour is that?
I don't think that has a name, that colour.
Canada, Toronto, Ontario, established 1793. It's a greeny kind of, bluey kind of, aqua kind of, I don't know, shirt.
It's sort of like it's a fluoro aqua. Extra large. It is very big.
Well, I don't know. I'm in an airport.
It's like sleepwear.
I was half drunk at the time when I bought it, obviously. And that's for you. So,
isn't that amazing?
If you're not, by the time this podcast goes to air, Chris will be wearing the shirt and the pants. I mean, it's summer downstairs, winter up top, admittedly.
It does. It reminds me a little
What's on
bit
the
of
back?
like.
Anything?
It looks like a Hypercolour T-shirt post Hypercolour.
And those colours will run, so just be careful. It was $12.
Wow, that's amazing, mate.
Yeah, she tried to charge me full freight, and I said, no, it's on special on your front rack.
And now we've gone through when I'd wear the pants. When would we roll this one out, do you think?
It says Canada, Toronto, Ontario, mate. So it's long sleeve. So, can I just take the price tag off?
Now, Mitch Lewis has hung around today. Mitch, what do you think of the shirt?
Yeah, the great Mitch Lewis, son of the king.
I like it. Again, it's very busy. I just hope when you
There's a lot going on. It's actually like an opening ceremony as a shirt, isn't it?
Could be. It actually could be.
And when you wear those pants, I think the best option is that you can actually take one long leg off and wear one short, one long.
That's a good idea, because I sometimes sleep like that with one leg out.
Yes. They're the perfect pyjama pant.
That is perfect.
The options Lutsy's given you, Chris.
That's actually your perfect winter pyjamas right there.
Yeah,
that whole ensemble.
I really appreciate that.
There's that pattern.
Now that we're into our mid-40s, Luttsy,
yes.
we can now start worrying about what we wear. And so that's, mate, that's thank you very much.
Impress, exactly.
Thank you very much.
So there we go. There's the gift. Okay, now today we've got a lot of committee chat, because we've got talk around not only the famous five, which is yet to be disclosed.
Thanks, Mitch. See you another day.
Thank you, Mitch.
The Olympic spoils.
Mitchy Lewis there. So the famous five, we've been speculating. It's still open to a worldwide search. The Federal Four has been named.
Yes.
Now, did we discuss that last time? I don't think we
I have
did.
no memory of December.
With John Coates?
No, we said we'd talk about it this time.
Yes, okay. So the Federal Four has been announced. I haven't thought of a funny name for the state four yet.
We need to do the alliteration.
Yeah, we'll work that out. But the Premier has not announced the four state nominees, or whatever they're called, or placements, I guess, for the BOCOG board.
Yes.
But amongst that, we've got Legacy Committee chat, of course. Then we've got the race for the AOC presidency, which is hotting up as well, which also impacts, obviously, the BOCOG board.
Yes. It might be the cause of the heat wave this week as we record it.
Honestly. 35 degrees in Brisbane, for those that aren't from here. And Brisbane
38 in the studio.
Yes, it's very warm in here today. But, but a lot of the race is on from Brisbane-based people right now. So we've got to chat about that. What else is worth happening? Not so much development as far as any sort of locations and Olympic venues and things like that. I don't think there's been a lot of talk in that regard over the last couple of weeks.
It has gone a little bit quiet. And it's interesting, actually, Luttsy, where you say, we make the joke that, up to episode 11 and there's 260 or something to go.
Yeah.
If we do this every fortnight and you think, that's coming, that doesn't actually seem that far away. That's kind of the point as well. It was more than 6 months ago that we were given the Olympics, and what has happened since is Kurt Fearnley has ended up on a committee.
I thought you were going to say Kurt Fearnley was Australian of the Year. That's still an all.
It is very good.
Well, Kurt Fearney's getting told
Kurt
that
is a little bit concerned, isn't he, about that?
Yes, indeed. Yes. So, and I guess the Premier, we still hope to have on in the coming weeks as well.
The Premier Palaszczuk has indicated that she would like to appear on the podcast.
I feel like what's going to happen there is she's going to synchronise her appearance on our podcast with the announcement of the State 4.
Well, it can't be too far away.
Can't be, can it?
No.
I mean, there was no stipulation that it had to be in place by a certain date. But
maybe this is a cynic in me. I wonder whether she's delaying the appointment of her.
Yeah, politically, where does she put it? Good point.
Well, but also to line up with the famous five, the inverted commas, the independent directors.
Yes.
Just to make sure that, being a politician, she'll be doing the numbers desperately and making sure that there's enough people who are in her camp, I imagine.
Yeah, I guess
on that committee. But anyway, maybe I'm just being far too cynical, and it is the Olympics. But
I presume everyone from her selections will be from her camp. Anyway,
of her four.
Yes.
But then within the five, there might be some others who, who might be
let's hope
aligned
it doesn't get
to that
political
side of politics.
So you see, we're already talking too many politics, aren't we? We're trying to create the greatest event in the world here, people. Let's just pump the brakes politically. Anyway, we
We'll
digress.
see. We don't know. We can only speculate.
Well, what we do know is the federal force. So Ted O'Brien, who's already been a star of this podcast, tick through.
Yes, Ted O'Brien, the school captain of Nudgee College in
1991.
is tick. He is on the BOCOG as one
Tick.
of Scott Morrison's appointments.
Okay, who is up next? Tracy Stockwell.
Yeah, I don't know Tracy very well, but you do. You've had a bit to do with Tracy. So Tracy, I do know that she won 3 gold medals in that 1984 game.
Yes,
so
where
I'm looking desperately for my notes.
No, I think you're right. No, that's where she met her husband, Mark, presumably, too, who we will speak about later in this podcast.
Yeah, Mark was also there.
Well,
okay, here we go. Tracy Stockwell won gold in 1984 in the 200 metres medley, the 400 metres medley, and the 4x100 metres medley as a swimmer representing the United States.
a true legend of American swimming, who then shortly thereafter became an Australian, well, presumably an Australian citizen, but was certainly based here. Married Mark Stockwell.
Yes, who won at those same Olympics 2 silver and 1 bronze
Yep,
in the
including
100 metres freestyle 4x100 and 4x100 medley.
The mean machine.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's and Tracy was then I got to know Tracy when she was the chairperson of the Queensland Academy of Sport Board, which I was a member of. Youngest ever,
Youngest ever.
apparently. I think still. Yeah. Anyway.
Did you wear the tracksuit pants with the zip?
Oh yes, I did. I had all of the gear. Yeah, my friend worked in that department, so she made sure I had all of the gear.
How old were you when you were on the QAS board?
I think I was still in my 20s. I think it might be 29 or something like that.
How did you fool them into that? And can you use that same strategy to get yourself on the BOCOG board?
Well, it's worth thinking about, isn't it? They were looking for youth. I remember John Coates may have said something about that. No, he wanted.
I suppose we're useful from his vantage point.
Yes, well, his vantage point's significant
He's
because he's the
he's
vice.
70 or something.
Yeah, but he was saying how he doesn't want a bunch of, in the words of the Courier Mail, which I presume was a direct quote, was a bunch of old farts.
Yeah, he said that on the podcast.
Yep, I know. Yep. Anyway, so Tracy was the chairperson on the board, well, longer than I was on the board. I was on the board from 07 to 2010 or something like that. And she was...
How did you get yourself on? You were just young. That was.
I think they wanted someone young.
Youth.
They wanted youth, and they looked
around Brisbane and they went, "There's a young person."
That guy, yes. Well, it did happen.
Wow.
I don't know. Yes, that happened.
Okay.
And then
So when have you applied to be one of the famous 5 on the BOCOG, and your resume just says youth /
no,
actor,
ex-youth, former youth / actor, part-time actor. So yes.
You probably would, if you went with your. Oh, we've joked about it before, but we put Luttsy's mental age on the application.
Well, you say that's 14. That's what you said last time.
I think you've grown up over the summer.
I've got 5 countries that do that to you during
19.
COVID. I'm a 19-year-old, genuine 19-year-old now.
Anyway, sorry, Tracy Stockwell.
Tracy Stockwell. So I think that's a great appointment.
Was she impressive on the?
Yeah, she was. I wouldn't say she was overbearing in any sense of the word, but there were some pretty amazing people on that board. I'm not suggesting I was one of them, but Tracy was great. She was a great. What would you call it? What's the word for someone that sort of looks after everyone in a really common sense kind of way and makes sure we reach very nice sort of good judgments. You know, there's a word for that.
Sensible.
I've had my Joe Rogan pills this morning too. I can't remember what the word is. She was a good... and we'll come back to that.
Okay, well...
Yeah, that'll all be gone by the time this goes to
She was very sensible.
She was sensible. And no, she was... Oh, what's the word? God, my mum was here. She's good at crosswords.
Is she? How is your mum?
She's good. She's playing...
What did mum get up to at Christmas?
She was at home. They moved. They moved to retirement living at Burnborough at Doomben, actually.
Yeah.
She watches
That's
track
a nice
in the morning. It is a good spot, actually. She's very happy.
So is this the last link, the last lateral out of Boondall?
That's it now. Yep. That is it.
Time, isn't it?
Unless I move back, which may happen at some point. Who knows? But anyway, that's Tracy Stockwell, Ted O'Brien. Now talk about a couple of Richard Colbeck.
So Richard Colbeck is a senator for Tasmania.
Right.
He's the federal sports minister. Look, he's a...
So that's an appointment.
You say sensible. He's a sensible man. There's not a lot of colour and movement around Richard Colbeck.
Was the federal sports minister always going to be getting a nod there? Or was he someone that's
he's on there
he's
on there as as the federal sports minister.
Right. And keeping in mind too, I don't think we've ever mentioned this as well. Before we mention our fourth of the federal four, given that we will have a federal election in probably May, and given that recent polls, if you believe in whatever that, say for instance, Labor and Anthony Albanese was to win that federal election, would we be saying sayonara to our federal four? Or just the political, the entire federal four? Would it just be those that are in politics, being Richard Colbeck and Ted O'Brien?
They're appointed by the federal government. They're the appointments at the behest of the Prime Minister at the time. So I suppose that would be a matter for the new Prime Minister.
So Albanese would be able to make
very good question.
Potentially 4 completely new announcements.
These are questions we should have asked John Coates in hindsight if we'd done our thinking.
Well, that's all right. We've got his email. We can. That's homework. I'm making a little column down here. Homework. Ask Coatsy, because he calls me Luttsy. Ask Coatsy.
You just keep talking
about federal four.
I'll send him a text.
If he gets back in real time, that'd be amazing. And
I'll just do that while we're going. You keep talking about Richard Colbeck at length, if you wouldn't mind.
Richard Colbeck.
He was born in country Victoria. He was the head of the.
I can easily do that now.
He comes from Devonport.
I'll tell you what I'll do.
Actually, he took the vacancy. He took over. I'm not sure it was a vacancy or whatever. But he took the slot that Campbell Newman's mum, Jocelyn, had in the Senate about 20 years ago.
Really?
For Tasmania.
Okay.
Richard Colbeck. And then he was out for a couple of years and then came back when a senator had to resign from the Senate due to the citizenship stuff, whenever that was, that sort of 2017, 18 time. Yeah.
Well, the fourth of the federal four is, we'll just move on, is Rebecca Frizzell. You keep going there because I've got some information here. So Rebecca Frizzell, who joins Stockwell. We should say Tracy Stockwell has had a heap of other things. She's been Director and Vice President of Swimming Australia, member of the Committee for Brisbane Advisory Council. She's been a significant Brisbane businesswoman for many years, also a founding member and past President of Women's Sport Queensland. Now, Rebecca Frizzell, Chief Operating Officer, Chairperson and Board Director. She's appointed to the board of the Gold Coast Titans, so a significant rugby league background. Significant Gold Coast
She's
entity.
A very significant Gold Coast business figure.
Frizzell's
automotive.
I think automotive, and I think Frizzell's,
yep. And also she, her and her husband own half of the Titans.
Right.
With Darryl Kelly, I think, owns the other half. So big into sport. She's also on the board of Paralympics Australia.
Okay.
Therefore that is a good appointment because, as we've spoken about, there is always a lot of talk about 2 weeks of sport. And we've fallen into this trap ourselves, as we spoke about last time. We're saying, look, it's the Olympics. But it isn't. It's the Olympics and it's the Paralympics. And we should never forget that. And Friz is right across that. She's very, very much into making sure that we remember that it's 4 weeks of sport, not just 2. Did you end up watching the Netflix show that I suggested?
I have not been able to yet.
You've been caught up with the cheerleaders show.
Yeah, I haven't even caught up with that. I've been watching Ozarks, whatever it's called, if you must know. But what's the name of that again, just to remind our listeners and myself?
Phoenix Rising, I think it was called. Or Rise of Phoenix Rising.
More homework. Have you
got to watch that. Yeah, I texted
Coatsy. Yeah, Phoenix Rising on Netflix. Okay, that's there as well. So you put on top of the that now. So the 4 nominations already.
Now the other thing, actually, you talk about Richard Colbeck's, connections, interesting connections. Rebecca Frizzell, her brother is Hedley Thomas, the award-winning journalist, and her brother-in-law is Paul Whittaker, who is who was my first chief of staff actually, and now he runs Sky News Australia.
Oh, Paul Whittaker! Wow, okay. So what's the connection there again? Sorry, with Paul?
Brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. Okay.
Yeah.
That's important.
Beck Frizzell. No, so Frizz will do a great job, and I'm sure Tracy will as well. And then you've got the 2 politicians there. You've got. Ted, as we've spoken about, is the federal, whatever, the Prime Minister's special envoy, I think is called.
And he's locally based. I like that he's got, obviously he's very passionate about Sunshine Coast and things like that.
Well, that's another good point, right, is you've got Beck Frizzell from the Gold Coast and you've got Ted from the Sunshine Coast. Now, what is interesting with Beck from the Gold Coast, remember when the Lord Mayor it came out of this podcast actually, and essentially announced on the podcast that his +1 would be the mayor of Redlands as opposed to Tom Tate from the Gold Coast, which then everyone on the Gold Coast got very worked up about that because they were saying, well, we're part of these Olympics, and the Brisbane Lord Mayor has chosen someone from Greater Brisbane to be on the BOCOG. So I think what this having the Prime Minister choosing Beck from the Gold Coast and Ted from the Sunshine Coast probably does give the Premier a little bit more flexibility in terms of her appointments because she doesn't have to tick the Gold or Sunshine Coast box.
Yes. Where are we in relation to the male-female breakdown on the board?
We're going pretty well. There's another 2-2 there.
Okay.
And so I think the Premier will need to choose one in addition to the 50-50. She might even go, 3 or 4 women. One of them will have to be an Indigenous person.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting.
Have a think through that.
Steve Renoff, the Pearl.
Sure.
Well, I think Steve's doing some good work within government now.
Yeah, okay.
He certainly aligns that way, government-wise.
Okay. What about Jonathan Thurston?
There's a big one, JT. I feel like JT on some level has political aspirations.
I feel like the Premier would
covers
like
the NQ. Covers off NQ.
That's true. Yeah, Regents. It would, I think, and ticks the box of the Premier would like to make the announcement standing next to JT.
Good point. Yeah.
I'm no insight. Just speculating.
Okay. Yeah. It's worth thinking about. This has to happen. It will happen soon. We'll have a quick break. We should come back and talk more in a moment. This is EP 11 of Toward the Games, Brisbane 2032. Toward the Games, Brisbane 2032. Luttsy and Chris Jones with you, talking all things Olympics.
Okay, now we had John Coates, Mr. Olympics, on the last episode, and he revealed something that had not yet been made public, and that is that he thinks that the Premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk, will appoint herself to the BOCOG as one of her 4 appointments that she can make, which is quite amusing in itself.
Well, I think it's going to happen though, isn't it?
Well, he was talking as if it was that she'd just been decided. He was saying, "Look, it's fine." Because, let's have a listen.
Yeah, well, there are vice presidents, the AOC president, the Lord Mayor, the president of the Paralympic Committee. They're there, but it's the guidance is going to have to come from the president of the organising committee. And I've seen a large committee in Tokyo work well, and in a similar sort of example, I've seen it in Tokyo. In London, and the buck stops with the president, but there's always going to have to be a majority support for every major decision they take.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because it hasn't happened yet because the Lord Mayor had to pick himself plus one other.
Yeah, well, it was in there that it is the Lord Mayor.
Yeah, it is the Lord Mayor, but it's nowhere in there saying it's the Premier, right? Yeah. So that's happening, but it opens up this bizarre, I guess. From a board perspective, you've got this bizarre situation which you've sort of spoken about, and we heard Coates sort of touch on there as well because you brought it up last time we spoke. Is who was running the show here? How does someone take control when you've got these heavyweights of government, these heavyweights of Olympicdom, and then potentially probably a completely separate third person who is the chair person of the board? I mean, how can decisions be made when you've got... It's not even ego. Well, it is an ego thing, but it's rightfully so. You've got people that are heavy hitters from all directions.
So you've got the BOCOG, which is established as in the Parliament, essentially reporting to the government of the day, and you've got the head of the government of the day sitting as a director. Then you've got literally the godfather of the Australian Olympic movement sitting across from the Premier, halfway down the table.
Yeah, he sits
and then you've got the chair of the committee making, apparently, like leading that discussion. Good luck. Jeez,
yes.
They're going to have to find somebody with some courage,
so the
self-confidence.
So the famous 5 the chairperson will come from the famous five.
Yeah, it does say then in the legislation
Okay.
the chair comes from
And the final word on the famous five, it's an independent kind of selection.
They call them independent directors.
That
and
confuses me. Who is doing that and who selects the actual... You can't tell me that the others that we've just spoken of aren't significant in the naming of the chairperson. And with that in mind, perhaps choosing someone who is... Look, benign is a strong word, but certainly not a headhunter that's going to be calling the shots aggressively in board meetings.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And so it was the recruitment firm was appointed or contracted or whatever by the state government to go out and find the famous five, the five independent directors. And I keep saying in inverted commas.
He's doing inverted commas a lot,
yeah.
yes.
Because you're right. I mean...
They can't pick the
I'm not
chairperson.
Sure. And then the chair... needs to come from those five, but it needs to be proposed by the Premier and agreed to by the Prime Minister.
Right. So, okay. So my presumption would be then that the famous five, which will require the Premier to pick her four sooner rather than later, the famous five might be the last one selected. And then at that point, there is almost like a pre-board meeting where they then vote for the chairperson. Would that be possible? That the actual... Because by then, every single person will be... everyone will be... the 22 names will be...
Well, the legislation says it needs to, that the chair needs to be agreed to both by the Prime Minister and the Premier.
Right.
Now, I would imagine, therefore,
so the PM's not on that. He's not there.
No, he's not on the board, but he gets to... So, look, I think it's going to be a test, actually, to say... Can any of these politicians, the Prime Minister and his office and the Premier and her office, can they actually stand back? Can they get themselves out of politician mode for a while, which everything is in numbers, right? Everything's,
yes.
How many have I got and how many has the other side got?
Yep.
Can they remove themselves long enough from that habit in order to make sure that the five appointments to the BOCOG that are meant to be independent are actually independent, and they don't just split it down the middle and go, you have two, I'll have two, therefore my side can have six and your side can have six, and then we'll agree on the chair.
Well, that's what confused.
That's where my kind of head goes to on this one.
Yeah, and then in everything you just said, then, well, how on earth is it an independent?
They should have just given them six each at the start.
Committee picking these last five. But the way you just said that, it sounds like that there's going to be fingers all over the place grabbing and selecting those last five.
So yet to be seen. I mean,
there's no way in the world that the chairperson will be selected by not by those people we just mentioned. Like who? Like an independent committee? Who is that? Who, like some no-namers are going to select the head of our Olympic? It's not going to happen. There's no way that the Premier will sit there and go, no.
Yes, you
there's
look
an
after
independent
it.
mob over there on Eagle Street in that Deloitte building. There's no way that's going to happen.
Exactly.
But how does it happen? It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think there'll be people listening to this podcast right now involved in that process. And I'm suggesting that all the heavy hitters are listening to this podcast that will be going, that's a valid point. How on earth are we is all this going to come together over the next month or so?
Yeah. We do joke about that, but they genuinely are, bizarrely.
Seriously?
Based on the texts I get.
Remember Yes Prime Minister? Or Yes Minister? It's a little bit of that starting to creep back in here.
Yeah. And the other thing we haven't spoken about is who's going to be the chief executive of the BOCOG as well. Because we're just talking about the board.
I've forgotten about that, yeah. Hang on. So so how long have we been running here? We can talk a bit more about this before we have another break. Yeah. But so the situation at the moment is that the president of the AOC, who at right now at this moment is the gentleman that is
John Coates,
hasn't got back to you yet. Or has he? Check your emails, refresh.
No,
but that's about to end for Coatesy.
Yeah. And
there's a race on to see who that new position will be. One of the people lobbying quite heavily is Mark Stockwell, the husband of Tracy Stockwell, who is on the BOCOG board. So if Mark was to get that position, he would be the head of the AOC, and by default then would become one of the first husband and wives of an Olympic board.
So here we have another faction.
That's another faction. There's a strong family faction.
You've got the Labor Party so far with 6. Then you've got the Liberal Party with 6, and then you've got the Stockwell Party with 2.
And they've had kids. So that could be, those kids are getting old enough to be power players.
Well,
over
that could be the
10
youth
years.
that you're talking about.
There's the youth you're looking for.
And so you've got...
So who else? That's Ian Chesterman's another one who at this stage was the chef de mission for the Tokyo Olympic team.
Now he's like John Coates' sort of deputy in the AOC.
Yeah.
I think and so he is genuinely John Coates' preferred successor.
Yep.
And as we know, John Coates is the best politician that's ever graced our nation, despite never actually running public office.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he's done a pretty good job of stitching up the numbers in favour of his preferred candidate, which is Ian Chesterman.
Right.
Now, Mark Stockwell wants to take that on, and he wants to say, well, it's time that we bring some fresh thinking into the AOC. And his pitch is all around, we've lost track of the opportunities through the Olympics of promoting participation in sport.
Yes.
We do a lot of talking about elite athletes and so on. We've forgotten about the basics, including things like, he's got some interesting ideas around sort of saying, okay, well, if we know that, BMX is going to be in the 2032 games.
Yes.
Then why don't we do, the story about how Logan Martin built himself, and I'm sure it wasn't, but, built the
back of his
Logan,
whatever. Yep.
Yeah, the same sort of facility as was in Tokyo in his backyard. So what Mark's saying is, well, why don't we do the same for every council in Australia builds the equivalent of an Olympic quality skateboard / BMX facility.
Yep.
And then you've got 10 years for these kids to stuff around, learn how to do that, and then we can pretty well guarantee ourselves great success in those sports. Okay. But also, beyond that, you actually are encouraging participation. You're encouraging kids to get out and do what it is that they've seen on the TV from the likes of Logan Martin, which isn't a bad idea. So if nothing else, if these ideas are picked up through Mark Stockwell's candidacy, then that's good. Now, how the votes are made, Luttsy, is that each sporting organisation has a couple of votes.
Each NOC
has a couple of votes. So it's not just... You have to actually win over all, majority of the sports in order to get
under the Olympic Olympic sport.
Yeah, in order to get the votes to become the president
of the AOC.
Yeah. I think that's in April, May. I think that vote's coming.
Right, so it's a busy couple of months coming ahead.
Now, if Mark Stockwell is indeed voted the president of the AOC, Luttsy, that means that John Coates' position on the board, he needs to go to one of his fallbacks.
Which is what?
So there's the you can, if you're a member of the IOC, as in from Australia, then you are on the BOCOG board. So John Coates is.
Yes, and John's not.
He's the only one.
He's remaining. So
he would stay in that.
Yeah.
And then his fallback is, for when he leaves that role at some point, is that there's also a spot reserved on the BOCOG for the it says honorary life presidents of the AOC, of which there are currently none. But obviously we heard John saying that they're going to basically appoint him that at some point.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So
so I don't think John Coates is going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere, and I like that. I like it even more after our chat.
I think he's having a sleep in though.
2 weeks ago.
There's no text.
It's 11:37 where he lives. Like he should be up by now.
I think he might be. Well, remember, there's another Olympics about to happen.
Oh yeah, that's right. He has got an Olympics starting in 2 days. Oh my god, how is there another Olympics happening? Just recovering from I'm just paying my bill. I literally got my bill yesterday for my hotel quarantine.
I think
that took a hot minute, didn't it? I got my bill yesterday for my hotel quarantine out of Tokyo.
Are you going to do what everyone else does and just ignore it?
I thought about it. Yeah. Well, it took them a year to get it to me. It's going to be another 2 years before they work on having paid. Yeah. Jeez, hope the Premier's not listening. Yeah.
Gee, it's exciting that... remember, we should talk Winter Olympics, shouldn't we?
I know nothing about it, but yeah. Steve Bradbury, 20-year
Let's have a break and brainstorm.
Okay, be back in a moment. Hey guys, toward the games, Brisbane 2032, Luttsy and Chris Jones taking you through all things as we count down well and truly under 4,000 days to go until Brisbane takes the world stage, but the world stage has been stolen by Beijing as we speak, with the Winter Olympics about to get underway, and geez, you can really just skirt over a bunch of different issues. There's FBI warning athletes of cybersecurity risks. There's talks of the Olympic, I think it was a former gold medalist who has tested positive to COVID. So obviously There's the whole COVID situation, still a massive drama in the bubble that they've created.
Well,
in
did you
Beijing over
hear?
there.
Actually, that is interesting. Here, when Coates was here, just before we started recording last week, Susie O'Neill dropped in to the studio here to say hello,
yes.
and John was telling her about the dramatic how much tougher the COVID restrictions are than even at Tokyo.
Yeah, right.
With Omicron around.
Yeah, and so the latest, I haven't looked for a couple of days, but I know crowd-wise, there's certainly no internationals just streaming in to watch the event live. Is there any crowds? I think maybe some locals only.
And they've been told to, applaud only and not cheer or something. So it could be another
Which was
weird
similar
one.
to Japan until just before the Japanese games, the Tokyo games kicked off, and obviously went to zero crowds at most of the venues in and around Tokyo.
You shouldn't get away from it. I mean, I'm actually concerned, considering how China is behaving internationally, that the IOC is still happy for them to host the game. It's got a little bit of, you don't want to overdo it in terms of back to 36 type vibes, but it's just got a bit of uncomfortableness about it, that there's all these questions about the way that they're behaving, and yet the Olympics are going ahead in order to sort of promote what is a non-democratic government that's acting incredibly poorly. But anyway,
it does go against
now
everything.
my phone's going to be tapped forever.
Yeah, exactly. That's Chris Jones at
I've got some.
Well, the fact there's been diplomatic boycotting, I think Australia joined the US bandwagon, as most other nations or Commonwealth nations at least have.
Anything?
I don't know what that means, to be honest, but it does mean something. I mean, the Olympics is
probably means something for all the diplomats who wanted to go and watch the games.
Getting the free junket. I'd be spewing, yeah. But anyway, so that's all happening.
Okay, I've got some medal chances
Curling.
for the Aussies.
Curling.
Okay, well, we'll go through them. Alpine skiing, medal hopes for Australia?
Yep.
Slim. Bobsleigh, medal hopes, outside podium chance for Bree Walker and Kiara Reddingus.
Now, that's the first. I think that's the first time there's been a two-woman bobsleigh. I feel like that's relatively fresh, but
so we clearly have done our work. Cross-country skiing, medal hopes, Luttsy. What would you guess?
Nil.
Yes, Slim.
So you're going with Slim.
And so we get to the curling.
Well, I heard
this is very exciting, actually. The curling.
Is this Matthew Hamilton? Is it his name? I'm trying to think. I saw a story about him.
Well, if Matthew Hamilton's other name is Dean Hewitt, you've nailed it.
No. Matthew Hamilton's the American. He's actually the star of curling. He's the actual star. What's our guy's name?
Dean Hewitt.
Dean Hewitt, that's him.
So yes. Dean Hewitt and Tali Gilt. Now, this is Australia's first ever curling team since the sport was added to the games in 1988. And I've said this before, that curling, I love the skeleton, but curling is my most intriguing of Winter Olympic sports. It's like the European handball. It's a sport that you never pay any attention to in any context other than every 4 years.
Yeah, but it's huge in Europe.
Yeah, but you also become an instant expert in curling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so
what
curling.
Is he doing? Yeah.
Curling, medal hope slim, but very exciting. Aerials. Now, we do have some chances here as usual. Laura Peel is a gold medal chance.
All right.
And Danielle Scott is a possible podium. Moguls. There's a strong podium chance with a number of skiers. Moguls is good fun, isn't it? Don't know what it does to their knees.
It can't be good for your knees, can it? Like, honestly.
You probably need the zips on the
the zip off Tokyo pants.
Ski cross slim, free ski, whatever that is, slim, luge, awesome, but slim.
Slim. Bobsleigh, interesting, just quickly, I just remembered that duo, the female duo, I think at least one of them saw snow for the first time like last November. That's not even a joke. I read that somewhere that she had
a movie like that.
It's like Cool Runnings, and they made it, by the way. The Jamaicans are back in the bobsleigh, but one of our Aussies hadn't seen snow until like last November.
There you go. Short track, not really. Figure skating, slim.
Any Bradburys? No, 20th anniversary of Steve Bradbury coming up.
Now, snowboard cross, there are gold medal chances in Belle Brockhoff and also Jared Hughes. These will be names that we have no idea of now, but in a couple of weeks we could be next episode. We could be all over this. Snowboard half pipe gold medal chance with Scotty James. Oh, Scotty James, no, Scotty James.
He's huge, yeah.
Then there's also an outside chance in snowboard slope style and big air, which they are good sports to watch. They're a bit like those BMX things in the summer games. Where's
that one? Do they do that one where they all take off? It's like a downhill where they all take off together.
Yeah, that is good fun, isn't it?
That is carnage.
Yeah, actually, I can't wait to watch that.
What's
that
that
will be good. What is that? It's the snowboard cross. Snowboard.
It might be cross.
Yeah.
And they all take off together.
Yeah, and there's like 6 of them, and
yeah.
got to go around that.
Oh, that's excellent.
That is a good sport.
It's a bit BMX-ish, I guess.
Yeah, it's got
but
that.
Probably
got
more
that vibe.
dangerous.
Yeah. So anyway, the Winter Olympics.
Well, we're still
Who knew?
batting overs, aren't we, with our medal hopes, given that we don't have much snow?
Yeah, there's a few there. There's a few
35
there.
degrees.
Actually, and the aerials, interesting that we are, as usual, very successful in the aerials. The training camp for the aerials is, of course, down there at Chandler, where they've got the big slope.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a world-class ramp thing where they go up and do their things and then land in the pool.
In the warm-up pool at Chandler.
So isn't it funny? There's a direct Brisbane link. Should we medal? In the aerials.
Can you imagine training like in this heat, training for that? It's extraordinary. But we tried to hire that and put one of our street team kids down it a few weeks ago. They said no, he'll die. It's a serious sport, and you launch 100 meters into the air or something. I went, okay, he's all right though. We can replace him. It's stupid Stu. But no, they wouldn't let us put stupid Stu down it, unfortunately.
I think that's one thing you do forget when you watch. It's easy to forget.
How dangerous it is.
When you watch these sports, isn't it?
Yes.
Just not only how dangerous, absolutely, but what absolute freaks these people are.
Yeah. I know. You absolutely forget. Like, they're elite athletes, and even though, they're freakish talents. Yeah, what they can do. They're just the ability to be able to do it without dying is the first thing, and then secondly, be able to do it as majestically as they do it. It's rare air. Anyway, so that's the Winter Olympics. Next time we'll speak, all these names will be famous, and we'll let you know. We'll hopefully
Medal rush. Yeah, no, Coates's still blanking us.
Nothing
yet.
Maybe he's asleep still.
It's been 25 minutes. Disappointing.
Well, anyway, you can follow us. Make sure you do subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already. You can follow us on Instagram, Toward the Games, on Insta. And I'm at Luttsy. What's your Insta again? I always forget.
I'm not social media, mate.
You're not?
I'm just off it.
You get too much abuse. Being the editor of a newspaper, mate. You can read his editorials in the Courier Mail.
You can?
Once a week?
Or daily.
It's a daily. I've only been looking on Thursdays. I've missed so much. And
I listened to your show the other day, actually, for 3 minutes, and literally in those 3 minutes, you gave me a shout out. I appreciated that.
I do it every time. Every time I mention it, it's Chris Jones's Courier Mail. No one's told me to stop yet. It'll happen pretty soon. But anyway, in the meantime, you can hear me on Nova Breakfast in Brisbane. Make sure you subscribe.
I think it starts at 8:57 based on my listening of that show.
For 3 minutes, weekdays, you can hear me on that show.
Oh, so that's a different day, is it?
What?
I thought it was just Thursdays.
You know what? Just listen Thursdays. I'm not that much good anyway. I hope you enjoyed, folks. We're back in a couple of weeks. And check out all our, if you haven't already done so, check out all our back episodes as well. We've spoken to some great guests, including Ted O'Brien, who's now on the BOCOG board, John Coates, of course. We've spoken to the Lord Mayor. We've spoken to several of the BOCOG board members, actually. Pretty exciting stuff.
Well.
And we'll continue to do so. The Premier.
Hopefully the Premier next episode, Luttsy.
Fingers crossed, and hopefully she'll have some announcements to
We're
make.
not getting along well at the moment due to the integrity crisis in her government. Hopefully we can put that aside.
Stop writing bad stuff about
we can have our own little Olympics truce for 45 minutes in 2 weeks' time. We'll see how we go.
Yeah. Well, no, I love you, Premier. So just come and chat to me. I'll protect you. Okay, see you next time.
Winter Olympics. Just hold 5 tiff. While we do some research. Beijing Winter Olympics. Be careful what they say. Oh, here we go. Biggest superstars and storylines to watch. This will be good. We've got a curling team. Let's talk about them.